For our Bloomberg radio and TV audiences worldwide, I'm delighted to say that we are now joined by Dr. Albert Bourla. He is Pfizer chairman and CEO. So, Dr. Bourla, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it.
It's a great pleasure.
Earnings out today. They were a little softer than perhaps others, in part because of COVID. I mean, in some ways, you're a prisoner of your own success because you brought the vaccine out. Give us a sense of where we are on what comes for Pfizer after COVID.
Yeah, the earnings actually was quite good when it comes to the non-COVID products, as you said. We were growing 10%. And for the COVID, we had given the news 2 weeks ago. We made some important announcements that we rebased our COVID expectations, and also we took a lot of write-offs. So all of that came this quarter. So following the COVID era for Pfizer, I would call it the COVID crisis, because still COVID, I think, will be around and will be a significant part of our revenues, but will not be the epicenter of everything we do. I think the epicenter moves to the acquisition of Seagen, so moves to cancer. We are putting a lot of capital over there, and we are hoping that we will be able to make a big difference on cancer, as we did with COVID. It's coming through our 19 new launches that we are expected to have, and actually 18 of them already are happening right now, which will propel the growth of the company as we are moving ahead. And of course, the vaccines is a crown jewel. We'll continue bringing products.
So as you say, we're going to get to the other non-COVID issues, but before that, you said COVID's still around. I just got my shot 2 weeks ago. It was a Pfizer shot. But where are you right now in the uptake of the vaccine this time? Because ironically, a lot of us are getting sort of a little inured to the dangers of COVID. What are you anticipating in terms of vaccination rates?
Right now in the US, we were anticipating before, in the beginning of the year, around 24% of Americans will take a COVID shot. Right now, it's trending towards 17. But of course, we need to wait until the end of the year to see. If you take into consideration from January until now, maybe 7.5 to 8% of Americans have received the shot. And then we are expecting these months to be very important right now.
What about follow-ons on mRNA? I know that originally, I think that you were working with BioNTech on flu mRNA. Where are you in that process?
We presented today in our earnings results from our COVID flu, and also we published 2 weeks ago. We have a COVID flu combination vaccine that passed all the tests in phase 2, so it's ready to move to phase 3. That gives us high confidence that will be with us in the period of 25. We also presented for the first time today data for a single flu, which is again mRNA, where it is the first time that the mRNA flu vaccine demonstrated non-inferiority and superiority against the standard of care. So we are moving very rapidly in creating combinations with COVID. I saw before that 17% of people are getting COVID, but 48% of people are getting flu. So I think that if you have a flu-COVID combination, that it is given at the same cost, because it's going to be zero copay, with the convenience of one injection, that will move the number of people that are getting COVID to higher levels.
Where are we in that process? I mean, I got 2 shots. I got a flu shot and I got a COVID shot at the same time. How far are we away from having 1 shot?
I think in 25 we will have it. Of course, if science keeps proving that we are right. But our timelines, it is in the flu season of 25, we'll have a combination vaccine.
So let's talk about the non-COVID, the other part of it that you talked about that did show growth, organic growth in your earnings
10%.
Today. 10%. Sorry, don't mean to sell you short. 10%.
Yeah,
there you go.
It's an impressive, and they are very proud.
That's right. When you look at those products that are coming online, how many of those are grown internally and how many of those are through acquisition?
There are, from the 19 launches that we are expecting, 18 are happening this year. We expect 4 from the outside, 14 from the inside. Some examples of the inside things that came from our own pipeline is the RSV vaccine. This was a significant beat for the earnings. Everybody, including us, were surprised how much people demand exists for this vaccine. We had the pneumococcal vaccine that also was a very big beat. Again, we were surprised how quickly we are taking back the share from a previous vaccine that had displaced us for a few months only. We are having immunoinflammation assets. We are having 3 or 4 oncology cancer assets with the first product that we launched against lymphoma. So it's a variety of products. Now, from the outside, very good example, Nurtec. It's a great product. It's for migraines. In October, we had the highest ever week with the highest scripts ever. Right now, more than 70,000 physicians in the US are prescribing Nurtec.
What about sickle cell?
Sickle cell is
doing as well as I recall.
That's the second one, and the sickle cell, not only the one that we have the exhibitor, is doing very well, but also we are progressing a second generation that will be way more efficient if, again, the science is in our favor, because those patients are really suffering, the sickle cell disease patients.
You mentioned Seagen, that acquisition. As I understand, it's been approved by the European Union, but not yet by the United States. Where are you in that process?
We are now, the last step that remains is the US clearance. As you said, 2 weeks ago, we got unconditional clearance from the European Union, where they saw no overlap and no need for any further action. We are now discussing with the US FTC. We're very collaborative with our discussion with them, and still we expect that the deal will close before the end of the year or early next year.
And if, in fact, it does close, as you say, what will that mean for your income statement?
Oh, it will mean, first of all, that we are getting a significant pipeline products that we need to invest. It's not that it's coming free, and we will continue investing on that. But it's coming with 4 already registered products that this year they are in the 2.3, 2.4, I don't know, what the analysts are expecting, and it's growing exponentially. So it's going to be, we expect that Seagen will give us $10 billion of revenues by year 2030.
Are you still in the market for more acquisitions?
Oh, yes. But of course, right now, this is a very big one. Mm-hmm. And already we have done a few before that. So we want to consolidate right now and integrate the 2 organizations very successfully. So I expect 24 that is not going to be a major M&A activity from our side. It's going to be, but not a major M&A, because we want first to consolidate that, start deleveraging a little bit. And then, of course, we have way until we make 25 billion of revenues by year 2030.
Well, and let me get to the overall numbers, because you've been very open about the fact you have some patents coming up, and so you have to replace that. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the number was. I think I heard 17 billion?
17, and I think maybe 16 now.
16, well, that's what I was going to ask. How far are you to filling that $17 billion hole?
Well, the acquisitions that we have done so far are giving us 20 billion revenues by year 2030. So we're going to lose 16 likely, and we are going to replace with 20 by year 2030. And that's only for the acquisitions that we did. Now we are launching 18 products. This year, I think, should be the 18th. We estimate that they will give another 20 billions. That will be basically the growth. And of course, on top of that are all the pipeline assets.
One of the very hot topics, as you know, is weight loss drugs right now.
It is.
Led by Novo Nordisk and Ozempic, things like that.
Yes.
You have had some products that you've been pursuing. I think one you had to drop out in trial.
Correct.
You have at least one more, maybe 2 more in process. Give us an update on where Pfizer is in developing a rival for Ozempic.
Yeah. First of all, we need to understand that those products are injectable, the Ozempic and the product of Eli Lilly. Very, very good products. What we are working is oral presentation of these products. We have one, which is Danu, that it is progressing right now, is in phase 2, and we expect to have readouts by the end of the year. And today, we announced, we put in our website so people saw it, that we have another molecule that we brought into the clinic, which is a follow-on molecule to that. So we are waiting to see the results. It's all about data. Data will speak. If the data are good, we are going to move into phase 3.
If you have an oral version and you take it through trials successfully, how many doses a day?
Right now, the current pill, it is twice a day, but we have working in reformulating that. And we feel confident that if it moves, we will be able to do it in once a day.
And will that be as effective in your judgment, in all likelihood, as Ozempic, for example?
We need to see the data.
Fair enough. And when you talk about this, I think back in January, you said that you thought it could be a source of as much as $10 billion in revenue for Pfizer, maybe something like 10% of an overall market. I think we're roughly the numbers. Are you still on track for that? Do you still anticipate perhaps $10 billion in success?
Yeah. When we made this projection, we thought that the market would be 90 billion altogether, of which 1/3, 30, will be the orals. Right now, the market looks like it will be even bigger. So yes, it is a sizable opportunity if you have an oral anti-obesity drug.
And again, what's the timing on this? By the end of the year, you think you'll have results on the...
By the end of the year, we'll have results.
On Danu.
Yeah.
Yeah, fascinating. Let's talk about the overall economics of Pfizer these days. Obviously, you had a huge success, for all of us, by the way, in your vaccine. Is that sort of a one-off? How do you regard that in the longer term for Pfizer? Do you sort of think that was a sugar rush? We can't replicate that, so we got to go back to where we were 2019?
No, I think it is not one-off, and it was not one, it was twice, right? So it was one vaccine and one treatment, and what are the odds that is by chance that the same company is developing two medicines that fast during the pandemic? I think it's a demonstration of the significant scientific capabilities that the company is having. So those capabilities are going to be used in developing medicines for other unmet medical needs. And I refer to cancer, but there are other vaccines that they need to be developed. We are having problems with immunocompromised people. We have problems with people that they have very overacting immune systems. We have metabolic diseases. Obesity is one of them. We have anti-infectives that we are working. So there are a lot of therapeutic areas that we are working right now.
What about the mRNA approach itself? Because that came as many, to us, a surprise. Mm-hmm. We hadn't had a vaccine based on mRNA before you and BioNTech developed that. Are there further applications of mRNA that you're working on right now that you think are particularly hopeful?
Oh yes, we presented today data from our flu mRNA vaccine, which particularly the flu with COVID combination, which was very successful, and also we demonstrated that we had the first ever mRNA flu vaccine that achieved non-inferiority and superiority against the standard of care, the normal flu. So that's one of the examples. We are working on a single-dose vaccine with mRNA. So the mRNA technology will continue, but Pfizer is mastering multiple technologies. Our RSV, for example, was not mRNA vaccine, was a protein vaccine. Then our pneumococcal was not an mRNA or protein, it was a conjugate vaccine. So we are using the technologies so that we can pick the right one for the right bug.
Dr. Bourla, one of the things that you've been proud of is the investment that Pfizer's made in basic R&D, which puts you in a position, I think it's fair to say, to develop the vaccine that we all have benefited from. Where are you right now in how you're investing in R&D as opposed to other things? I know that you're going through some cost cutting. You've announced some cost cutting this year and going into next year.
Oh yes, but still, even with cost cutting in the R&D, I think our R&D will remain one of the highest R&D investments in the industry. And you're right, when I took over, our research was around $7 billion a year. Right now, in the guidance that we gave is around 12 plus. So it's significant uplift. But also keep in mind that when I took over in 2019, Pfizer, the pharmaceutical revenues, we were number 4 in the world. Now we are number 1. Even after we reduced our COVID expectations, we will end up the year with the number 1 pharmaceutical company in terms of revenue. So from 4 to 1, that happens because we are investing.
We're speaking with Dr. Albert Bourla. He's chairman and CEO of Pfizer. So Dr. Bourla, on this question of how you allocate capital from the C-suite, as it were, you're going to be cutting some R&D, as I understand it. They're not immune from cuts that's coming up. How do you go through the process of saying, this we can afford to cut, we can retrench on R&D, this we can't? In part, let's be honest, so that we're prepared for the next healthcare crisis. There's going to be one at some point.
Yeah. We are going to have, as you said, cost realignment across the industries, across the corporation. So it's going to affect everything, including R&D. So how we do that, it is we are working on plans how to reduce and realign our costs in the last several months. I had somehow telegraphed the street even of the second quarter earnings when I said that we are watching our COVID revenues, and if the COVID revenues are coming less than what we expect, we will realign our cost base, so to make it more appropriate. So this is what we are going to do. But of course, we do it with trying to maximize all the projects that are extremely important. And the important programs financially are usually, if not all the times, the important programs from medical need. Our products sell because someone needs them. If not, they will not. So we are trying to make sure that all of these projects will continue, and we are very confident that we will be able to make it.
I wonder what you've learned from your experience with COVID and particularly in general what you've learned, but specifically in working with the government. What the government can do well, what it doesn't do quite as well. What's the relationship there? What could we improve in our healthcare system together?
Look, we work with many, many governments, and the vast majority of them, we develop very cordial relations because it was a crisis, they were counting on us, and we were delivering, so that we were able to develop really, really very good relations. That applies to the government of the US. Clearly, they have their own realities, so they are going back to what they have to deal, all the governments, which is their financial, fiscal, let's say, containment. And they have a tendency to forget that once upon a time, we saved the world, this industry. So it's not about Pfizer, I think it's about the pharmaceutical industry. I think this industry demonstrated the value that brings to society.
Are you speaking with the government, federal government of the United States, but more broadly about things like public health? Because as I recall, one of the issues was not just getting a vaccine, but getting it distributed.
Yeah.
And that was not easy, particularly in a lot of parts of the world, but even here in the United States. A lot of people didn't have their own general practitioners that they could go to get the vaccine. Are we making progress in that? Are you talking with them? Is the federal government open to the possibility of more investment in public health?
In public health, we are talking a lot with the governments, particularly in topics that they think we can contribute with our knowledge. And COVID clearly was one of them, and because of the importance of the issue, that hit the highest levels of the government and also the highest levels of the company. So yes, I had numerous discussions both with the White House and the HHS of how we can improve situation for American public health.
Do you think that we're in a better position today to deal with the next pandemic or whatever it is? I mean, I'm not wishing that we have one, but we can't rule out that possibility. Are we in a better position, given our experience at this point, with Pfizer, with the government, with others, are we in a better position to deal with it than we were come 2019?
To answer the question, we need to think what really made the difference. And what really made the difference in this pandemic was the power of science. So as long as we maintain a very vibrant biotech, pharmaceuticals ecosystem together with academia in this country, I think in the next pandemic, still solutions will come from this country and will come from this industry. If not, I'm afraid solutions will come from other countries, and I think China is the one that is a rising star in terms of investing in science right now.
Well, what about that? Because you mentioned the very substantial amount of money that you've increased in investing at Pfizer and R&D. What about government funds, whether it's through academia, whether it's NIH, otherwise? Are we investing enough? Should we be rethinking how much we're investing in basic science in this country to deal with problems like this?
I think our biggest problem is not how much we invest, because the industry is increasing the investments, and I think also the academia is well funded right now, and NIH I think is well funded. I'm sure they want more, but they are well funded, like all of us. I think the issue is more policies that will enable investments in smaller biotech companies, that usually 99% of them will fail, but the 1% will be successful, will provide the solutions to the world in collaboration with us. So I think it's extremely important to have policies that enhance innovation, and investments is not going to be a problem.
Dr. Bourla,
and not from taxpayers' money, from private money.
Dr. Bourla, we're all very mindful of what's going on around the world right now, whether it's Ukraine or whether it's Israel, the war with Hamas, things like that affect all of us, including our businesses. Give us a sense, as a leader of a major corporation, how you deal with things like that, particularly given your background, which is a particularly distinctive background. I always like to talk about you and your counterpart at BioNTech from very different backgrounds. Overcame all sorts of differences, geographical differences, religious differences. How do you deal with that in Pfizer?
Look, clearly, as all, we are very worried when we have these conflicts, and the first thing that we are thinking is our people in these countries. And of course, also, we are interested because we are affecting the whole world. Now, particularly with me and the crisis in Israel is also very personal, because I'm son of a Holocaust survivor, and the scenes that I saw happening with October 7th, with this attack, reminded me what my mother used to tell me of how she was treated, and how her brothers were taken, how she saw kids being killed in front of the parents, and then kill the parents because they first had to see it. Things that are unthinkable. I never thought that I would see them live. Through the discussions and what my mom was telling me, I saw it. So I was personally very much affected.
Is it possible to separate those sorts of memories, those sorts of feelings entirely from the business side. And I don't mean just for you personally, Albert Bourla, but you have a lot of employees who are feeling a lot of those versions of those feelings themselves.
Yes, and I think it's one thing to be the head of a corporation, and I need to do the right thing as a head of the corporation. I also am a human being, and I feel I have my own feelings.
Okay, Dr. Bourla, thank you so much for being with us. Really appreciate it. That is Dr. Albert Bourla. He's Pfizer Chairman and CEO. Back to you.